Hey Ted, let me know when. All right. No problemo. So, how's everybody doing? Good morning, etc. Right? Woo! How many people just didn't go to sleep? I mean, it's just too much work to actually go to sleep.
We're really glad that we have videos of these things because nobody can go to all the talks at once, etc. Please make a fool of yourself. You're on camera.
Absolutely, I'm on camera now, so now I have to get nervous. As Rodney said, thank you, Rodney, for that warm and kind introduction. Yes, I am a vendor. I do play one on TV. But I'm not here to sell a good or a service or anything else. I'm here to talk about outbound content compliance, what it is, why it's important to me and you as individuals, and why it's important to you as people who work in corporations or federal space or whatever it is that you do to make the money that you spend here. Okay? And I put my information up there just in case you want to jot it down or get the video and see it later. So what is outbound content compliance, or OCC, not to be confused with Orange County Choppers, because they're cool and this isn't. It's a new industry. It's been recognized by all of the big names in all the consulting and notice spaces where, hey, there's new technology out here. So, and it has many different names depending on which of these organizations you listen to, whether you listen to Gartner, or Forrester, or IDC, or none of them. Okay. Basically what it does is it's all about what's leaving the enterprise. Because what's the biggest thing we've heard last year? X company releases N number of social security numbers and personal information to the internet. Anybody has anybody have any personal experience with identity theft? Okay, a lot of fun? How long ago did it happen? You're still dealing with it, aren't you?
A lot less now than before. Every now and then something pops up.
That's a lot of fun, isn't it? Yeah. So, we have to, as individuals, we all feel, I think, strongly that our information, our personal information, needs to be maintained. And who's holding these corporations to the fire? Well, the federal government is. Okay? As a security professional, I wasn't always a vendor. Okay? I actually used to work in the operations side as a director of information security. So my take on this is, and this is my opinion, so feel free to bash me if you want, but I'm going to ignore you anyway. The majority of companies have a good coverage on technical security controls today. I mean, firewalls are common. If you don't have an IDS or an IPS, you're probably monitoring somehow for somebody trying to hack into your systems. Okay? Policies, procedures, and guidelines. These have been hammered to death because businesses can write policy, procedure, and guideline and not have to spend a penny on a technical control. Okay? It's just documentation. And functional audits. Does anybody deal with auditing? Yeah, that's fun, isn't it? Okay. Were you dealing with auditing 2 years ago? Okay, that's rare, and it's climbing. I say it's about 75% coverage in the industry across the board, but we're going to see a lot more audit, and that's due to compliance regulations. Okay. How did we get where we are today? Why am I standing up in front of you today? 10 years ago, who was in security? Okay. Those of you that raised your hands, how many of you had a security title? That's what I thought. Were you a technical person, an IT person? All right. IT has always been beholden to provide the security for a corporation. Is that the right place to put security? Technology is just a tool or a control. All right. It's been focused in the wrong place. Security needs to be focused on the business. Privacy issues causing legal quagmires. What do I mean by that? What happens if your company releases a whole bunch of data? Well, see legal quagmire. Okay. As well, what if you're an organization that has an open policy to everything, like a university? Information needs to be free, let it go, right? Well, can they put something on the network to watch all your traffic? In some universities, yes. In some, no. Okay? Business and audit, those auditors, business and audit, technical audit specifically, really don't speak the same language at all. And that's across the board. And how many of you work in organizations where your outbound traffic is pretty much whatever you want? Maybe they block IRC, but they let everything else go. That's great. I love those organizations. So we're gaining visibility again. I've sort of gone over this because we've got new regulations that we have to comply with. Show of hands, who does not work in an organization that has some of these policy requirements? 2. Okay? Why do you care? How many of you work for those corporations that have to comply, be it federal or corporate? Okay? How many of you have an outbound content compliance control solution in place? A few. The rest that didn't raise your hand, how would you know? Okay? And if you're somebody who's charged with finding a solution like this, you certainly want to look at this space. Okay? And why is it the big argument? The big argument is, well, you know, I've got all these technical controls. I should be able to do everything I need to do. It's not true. Most companies are right here. They've got the technical controls, they've got their policy, procedures, and guidelines, and their audit and verification is usually manual. Okay? Outbound content compliance solutions actually automate this process and make the auditors' lives a lot easier because they have baselines and metrics and data to go back to, and they can check off the check boxes. And what happens if the audit is a green light? The principals of the organization are happy because they aren't beholden to somebody else and fines and penalties and jail and all that fun stuff. Okay? What have we focused on in the last 15 years? Protecting from the evil hacker. A study just came out, 97% of all IT security spending is to prevent inbound attacks. Yet CERT and FBI just came out last year with their annual review of risk, and 82% is insider-based. I think there might be a disparity there. Or it's somebody who doesn't understand how a control works and sends an email that should be encrypted, unencrypted. It doesn't matter. The risk is still there, right?
It's defined as authorized users, people who had the authority to be on the network to begin with.
Right. It's not typically some machine that's been backdoored and is being used as a Trojan to steal data. It's somebody like me who has access to that database of customer information. I open up that database in a view, I capture that data, I copy it into Microsoft Excel, I stick it in my email, and I send it to John. Exactly. It's active user ignorance or malicious, or it could even be misconfigured internal controls that allow things like, you know, firewalls that don't have outbound rule sets. Okay? Right, and what a lot of companies don't want to do is they don't want to report, even though it's federally mandated, that they've been hacked or have attacks or have issues. But at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. It is heavily leaning towards the financial vertical, and because they are absolutely required to report. And I think that we're going to see in the next, I would say, 2.5 years, that there's going to be a lot more reporting as a lot of these new legislative pieces go into full effect. Okay, so why is this stuff happening? The short and simple summarization of this slide is lack of visibility. Outbound content compliance control tools could be summed up this way. If you put 500 people reading TCP dump logs in near real time, you could do this today without buying a single tool. But I want to know if you're actually think that you're going to get approval for that FTE, for those full-time employees. Okay? It's not going to happen. So you need to have tools that do it for you automatically. So show of hands, how many of you in the room are responsible for information security at an organization or responsible for policy, procedure, and control? Okay, I'm not going to read these to you. I'm just going to pop them up. And the real question is, would you know if? How many of you have looked at Kazaa Lite? What's it do when you install it and choose the defaults? It installs spyware, but let's say that you've got a good spyware blocker, like one existed, and that wasn't an issue. There's another thing that it does. Do you know specifically on a Windows box what it shares? My documents and all subdirectories. How many of you use VMware or Microsoft's virtual PC or some other virtualization system? Take a virtual machine, put XP on it, load Kazaa Lite. Put some BS file names in your My Documents and let it share it. Then open up Kazaa and start searching for things like finance star.xls or star.mny. You will be surprised. It's terrifying to think that there are corporate users out there that installed Kazaa because they want to get that download, or their kids did it when they were in on Saturday, or whatever. There's no outbound firewall rules to prevent that peer-to-peer traffic. There's no IPS in there to actually identify it and stop it. And yet, that CFO's financial forecast for the next 3 quarters is publicly available to Kazaa and any user that wants to search for finance star.xls. So how do you fix it? You got to look at the traffic. Once you look at it, you've got to analyze it and determine it's going to be, if it's risky information or not. And that determination needs to be focused more on the business, not on a technical solution. We've got IDSs and IPSs, and for the better part, they work well. I don't believe Gartner. IDSs are not dead, and that's on the record. We've got to be able to report this information somehow. Okay? We've got to be able to get it to the business people that can make the decisions on how to either policy, procedure, or a new technical control to enable you to fix the problem. You should also be able to do this not just on data in motion across the wire, but be able to point this at stored data somewhere and identify where in your organization do you have data that could be compromisable, that would be damaging to the organization. The best part here is you've got to be able to match an event with the actual user who did it. This means that you shouldn't be using shared logons and anonymous logons, and I'm not going to go into the diatribe of why you should do things with security standards in mind. And boy, wouldn't it be nice if you saw an event occur through an automated mechanism, some automated method to say kick off Encase Enterprise to perform a forensics investigation automatically on that machine. Anybody here in forensics? Think that'd be cool? How do we get, you're in forensics, how do you find out about an incident or an event going on in your environment today? The shit hits the fan. But it's incident response. But let's take, I'm surfing porn and somebody walks by behind me and takes great offense to that. They go to their boss, if they choose to report it, right? That's a toss-up. There's no metrics, I don't know what that is. And I'm surfing porn through the WebSense or surf control filters. I mean, I know how to Google skirt. And if you don't know how to, well, send me an email. It's real easy. Or just Google it. The neat thing is that with a tool like this, if you can identify those people that are doing, say, Google skirting or surfing adult content, going around your existing controls somehow, and then fire off an automatic investigation, Whee! You don't have to worry about the things coming to you from outside your forensics organization. You can actually deal with them directly and be a positive benefit to the environment. So it's kind of cool. It's also kind of freaky. So dancing that kind of odd line here. So how does it work? I'm going to actually demonstrate the product of the company that I work for. And again, I'm not here, it's not for a sales purpose. I'm not trying to sell this thing. I want to show you how it works so that you understand it. It's basically a TCP reassembly engine. Big sniffer, big memory, big horsepower processors. We do stream reassembly in real time. It's got a linguistics engine. It can actually read the English language. It knows the difference between, man, I could kill for a burger, and hey, let's get together and kill your boss. Okay? It's already got decoders built in, so it understands the protocols that I've got listed up here and a number of others. That's just the short list. So the flow of how it works, it sits and sniffs, basically. Once it's sniffed, there's some pre-processing done. It's thrown into the center analyzation part. That's where events are defined. If there's content in that payload that you've determined should be an event. Once the event has been recognized and flagged, it gets stored in a database. Any traffic that is reassembled that does not hit an event category is not stored. It's thrown in a bit bucket. And the reason for that, anybody run NetVCR? Okay. Once it's in the database, it's tagged and flagged and indexed and archived 6 ways from Sunday. It's diced up so that you can do nice reporting and event and alerting. The product that I work with has these category groups. We have 3 main category groups dealing with information and privacy, acceptable use, and preventive security. I'll just take a second to let you read that. Any questions on this? Oh, come on, this is a softball, folks. I always get the question, or normally always get the question, do you decrypt those encrypted protocols? And the answer I have for you is not today. And I'll talk about that near toward the end. So here's a deployment example. The boxes can be deployed, or the sensors, collectors, or whatever you want to call them. Okay, use ISS speak, or your favorite flavor of the day. We can have a standalone box that's up here, and it has its own database, and it presents its own front end from it. All IP, of course, all over SSL, et cetera, et cetera. You can also have collectors, and these collectors will feed their data into a central console and database, that also presents its own aggregated view of all of the collector's data. It's quite straightforward. And one of these collectors doesn't have to be a network collector. One of these collectors could be what's called the stored data discovery tool that you mount external drives against and review stored data using the exact same rules that you do for data in motion.
One of the items on the slide previously was correlating privacy information on someone's health information. How would you give an example of how you're correlating? If someone sent out an email, they cut and pasted in, some things, there's some keywords there like, something itis and your name, whatever. How are you correlating that to know that that's privacy information? That's someone's private information. What are you tagging? Something like that to figure out, I don't know if that's proprietary, but figure out that that's particularly somebody's health information and not just
There are a number of ways that that's done, and it is sort of proprietary, but I'll simplify it. It's somewhat Bayesian. You're looking for certain words within a certain range of other words, and they get a score. But if I see breast, for example, I might say that's a +5, so the pendulum swings +5, and I'm using adult as an example category. So I've added 5 points to that, so after a certain threshold, it becomes an adult event. But I see breast, +5. But if I see cancer, that may be a -20.
Social Security number.
Might be a +50. Right. And so there's every single TCP reassembled session goes through over 100 steps in every algorithm to determine if it's an event. And we're trying to lower the false positive hits. And I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that false positives don't happen, okay? Yes, you have to tune the product. Yes, we help tune products with our customers. I'm hoping that our competitors are doing the same, because this is not something you just go plug and play yet. Hopefully it will be in 10 years. Okay? This reports it doesn't prevent today. See me afterwards, I can talk about future. Okay, so the values and benefits are pretty straightforward. I'm just buzz through some of this here. Okay, one of the keys there is identifies rogue protocol usage. It'll identify Kazaa. It'll identify other P2P clients using port 80 or using DNS, because it's not looking at the actual port, it's looking at the payload data. And there's signatures in those payloads. There's certain things we can look for. Here's the ultimate irony, and here's one of the reasons why I really wanted to present this. And it's the first line. For those of you that work in corporations or the FedGov, don't count on your privacy. This is the best part. I mean, it's federally mandated. I know for a fact that they're already deployed in a lot of this space. Okay.
Has this been running for years in like brokerage houses, hedge instances about insider trading?
No. They may have written their own vertical. There are some competitors to the company I work for that work in nothing but the high-speed data transaction financial vertical, and it's a very niche piece. So that may be. That's a British company. Name escapes me. Okay. Another thing to watch out for, if you've recently signed a new acceptable use policy. Anybody do that recently? Okay. Watch out for them. Typically how these get deployed in organizations is they'll engage with a vendor. They'll purchase the product real quietly. They'll put it in for 3 to 6 months in baseline. They're not doing any witch hunting at that point. They want to see where their problems lie. Then they'll rewrite the acceptable use policy, make everybody in the organization sign it. Then the witch hunt begins. Assume you're being watched 115% of the time. And I saw a really good talk on the on MOS and Tor. If you didn't see it, buy the CD or DVD. Really good stuff. I'll be playing with that here later. Okay. I've got one quick case study, and then I'm going to go into a demo. Basically, a storage company, major player, there's only 3, so you get to pick which one, was going to be acquiring some companies. They suspected somebody was leaking data. They actually suspected it was one of the executives of their company that was leaking data. So the CSO was asked to look into it by the board. They brought in a product. Whoops, I left our company name in there. Don't look at that. At any rate, they found out that the executive was actually in cahoots with the company, the acquiring company to get a job, and was providing them proprietary data, and was summarily executed. No, he was summarily let go without his parachute clause. And not only did that save the damage to the acquisition, but it saved him a whole bunch of millions of dollars of parachute clause they didn't have to pay too. So he kind of had to beat the street. So our company name's on this, so if you want to jot it down again, it's there. But I couldn't remove that logo. Right here is the interface, and what I've got here, just so that you don't see my fingers leave my sleeves. I'm running it in VMware. It's completely underpowered. It's completely under-rammed, so it will be slow. It has a static database. This is my, when I go out to customers and show them how the product looks, demo. Okay? It's not actually live and collecting any data. Although I did go to a con earlier last year, or late last year, where we did actually collect some data at the con, which was quite interesting to see all the SSL and SSH traffic. And that was Freaknik down in Nashville. So if you haven't gone there, I highly recommend it. It's a great con. What I'm going to go into is the event summary view. And I'm going to view all of my events by their categories. The product actually has over 60 predefined categories out of the box, like social security number, like credit card data. We actually work with the Social Security Administration and the credit card companies to make sure that our algorithms are right. We actually had the one of the co-chairs of the GLBA documentation assist us with our categories with HIPAA and healthcare and credit card. Oh, that's nice. Of course, you try a demo and it fails. Gotta love that. Well, at least I can show you that we update valid social security numbers. And how we do that's proprietary, but we'll just say that we work with the Social Security Agency to do that. Sort of. No, it is not a database of social security numbers that can be read or anything else, no. Imagine the most secure way that you could do that, or the most logical way you could do that, and that's pretty much how it's being done.
What kind of traffic rates are these products able to handle? That's a 10 gig core.
At a 10 gig core, we would really choke badly, and pretty much everybody would. I'm sure everything could be overcome by the right size box. This is actually a software/appliance solution, depending on what your take is. What we do at the company I work for is it's Red Hat basically under the covers. Okay, pretty much tweaked and hardened. It's got IP tables installed, and if you want to tweak and harden it more, and knock yourself out. If you want to put it on a 16-way with a couple of gig cards and I don't know how much RAM. What's the biggest server you can get with the biggest amount of RAM in it? Because RAM is key, because that's buffer space to take off the wire. And we're currently working on making this a true appliance and identifying where we might want to put this into ASICs. Today, performance rates with all the categories on, we can drink 100 megabit per second of bad data or event data. And that's kind of key. I always get the question, well, how much data am I going to save, or how much data am I going to end up storing? And the answer is, how bad are the people you're looking at? And what categories do you have turned on? Okay? Because based on the categories that you have enabled, is complete, if you only are interested in people doing acceptable use violations on shopping and adult, then you only turn those two categories on. That may be only 1/1000th of your traffic. If you're only worried about social security number and credit card, you only turn those categories on. We're just providing the tool set and trying to be as flexible as the customer needs. Kind of one of those logical software companies. Yes?
Different levels of content analysis. Like, you had the encrypted files, you decrypt on the blocks, that sort of stuff. What about setting archive?
We descend into unsecured archives. We don't do any signature matching.
So, for example, you don't know if it's a PGP file, unless it's all that.
No, actually, we can identify the PGP because there's a header in it. If you want to call it that, yes. When I hear signatures, I think of IDS signatures, which are diametrically opposed. We actually analyze the context of the content that's reassembled. The other big plus there is, how many of you deal with email? Okay. SMTP has a really neat MIME type for attachments, right? So if I can read SMTP, I can also reassemble the MIME attachments, right? Right? I can read those too, as long as they're unencrypted, including PDFs, all the Office file types, text files, XML, HTML, you name it. We reassemble all of that as well. And what's really cool about that is if I send an Excel spreadsheet with Social Security number data into it, like a company showed us that one of their employees did, took a snapshot of the database and threw it into Excel, and was selling all of the Social Security information and credit card data for 62,000 rows in Excel with the magic number, with the credit card limit and current balance, was selling those identities. On the black market, a verifiable identity is worth $100 today, which means I could go buy any of your identities for $100. Might not get much out of it, but identity theft is, as this gentleman here probably knows all too well, is very, very, very large and very painful to those people that have had it happen. A personal friend of mine had his identity stolen over 4 years ago and has just now gotten his credit rating back. I don't know if that's a bad thing. The credit card companies have you listed as dead. Okay, yeah, I agree there. That would be bad. Just how do you do that? Hold on a sec.
It's a long process.
Yes.
So federally mandated, can you describe which federal statute mandates outbound compliance?
Well, if you look at SOX, if you look at HIPAA, and you look at GLBA, that data can't be released. So how do you protect the data if you have no visibility on where it's going?
Things you're supposed to do, which you're obviously not trying to replace.
Yeah, we're trying to augment access control and all of those tools. And the problem is that access control isn't the issue. It's the insider risk. Those people that have access doing things they're not supposed to do. Excuse me, the individual, no, this is great, this is great. The individual that put out those 60,000 records of credit card data had access to the database for all the valid reasons. He was a trusted employee. Why did he have the ability to leave with it? He could read the data.
Read the data, but not put it on your USB drive and take it and sell it to somebody.
But he didn't put it on his USB drive. He copied the query result, put it into his clipboard.
Not all the monitoring in the world will stop you from doing it.
No, all the monitoring rule won't stop anything. But what we do is provide the visibility so that you can put the adequate controls in place. Because it sounds like you guys are way ahead of the game if you're already doing that. You're in the minority.
But one of my worries about these things is keep throwing this stuff out there on top of big problems. Like, okay, you're a little bit better off for a few years until we find the next big screw up. And then the CEO goes, oh great, I have this. It's like, it doesn't really buy you too much of that guy. But, and then you see what I mean. You keep putting these things, you keep padding up the products along the network, when the key things that you need to do are actually just a little bit of thought and design and consideration as opposed to
The same argument could be said that IDSs are dead. And if you believe that, then this is not valuable at all. You know, because this is an IDS for data, is what it is.
Bad access control decisions, or good ones, that have gone wrong.
Exactly. And what's this doing? The same thing at the data level. Layer 7 of the application layer. And I will be around after if you actually want to see a demo. I will get that fixed. I do have one that I can remotely connect to, but unfortunately I'm not going to do that in front of everybody. This is the part that really scares me more. Is the second line. It's coming. And in some cases it's already here. I'm not a lawyer, don't hit me with the legal questions. I don't play one on TV. Okay? But this one really concerns me. Somebody else being able to decrypt my SSL sessions to see what I'm doing in my secure communications. However, some of the other stuff that's really cool is integrating with other firewalls, IDSs, IPSs, so that if the product actually does see things, that you can set up automated responses, like we already do with Guidance Encase. Work with other forensics tools, also provide better value to the existing controls you have in place, such as your firewalls and your IDSs, IPSs, etc. Maybe even your access control systems. Okay? Because right now, without any visibility, you don't know what's happening.
Where you know, like a normal SIM or a visualization tool or
Our product actually uses Postgres or Oracle. So the answer is yes. Absolutely. After you open up all of the firewall rules that don't allow the database to be communicated with, for all the right reasons, because JDBC and ODBC are not secure unless you're going to SSH tunnel them.
The SSL stuff, the way it's usually done is to push a new root key down to all the hosts. How do you handle that with keys that aren't in something like AD?
I don't. This is futures. Okay? We've only just been informed that this is coming down our roadmap in the next 90 days, but development hasn't told us how they're going to do it.
Proposed to me a number of times, and every time I tell them, a third of my shop is Macintoshes. I am not going to log into 20,000 Macintoshes to give them an authoritative, a new root. So until I see that, I'm not going to do that. We're going to work.
Sure. I understand. And like I said, I don't know how this is being done. They've just identified a product and solution they're going to integrate with. So, but the big push on integrating with your existing stuff is so that it actually does provide the greater value, because we have heard that before. And like I said, further integration with forensics tools.
I have some answers for the SSL decryption that I can talk about later or now.
Got a few seconds. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, there are several ways of doing it. DSNP does man-in-the-middle attacks, and all you really need to have is a key that's signed by a CA, and the web browser will accept it. The user will question it because they'll never give it a chance to question it, and it doesn't have a attack. The user, it's not that difficult to do as far as doing man-in-the-middle attack. Even when the user is given the opportunity to question yes. Yes, they click yes. And they only have to do it once, ever, on that machine, maybe usually for that user. The other is, there are still some web browsers out there that will use RC440, or they'll use some other bad crypto, and they can be attacked that way. And then you can also do things like put an alert certificate on the machine. There are several different ways of attacking this, and most of them bypass strong crypto that we might have had. And then there are other ways of doing it too.
Yeah. Thanks. So, aside from the fact that my demo bailed, does anybody have any questions? I will be around afterwards. I will get VPN'd in so I can show somebody who's interested. Yes?
If somebody's doing a big paste of a big file plus some social security numbers, can you snip it off before it's complete? Can you stuff it?
Today we only monitor and report. One of our future product pieces, and the key here being integration with an existing IDS, IPS, or firewall, is we'll be able to push the stop, dependent upon, is the firewall capable of receiving a remote authenticated command? Is the IDS, IPS also able to do that? So we're looking at playing with products like NetScreen, Checkpoint, Cisco routers, firewalls, Cisco PICs, et cetera, all the major IDS, IPS vendors, so that we can actually, and instead of having another system that acts like an IPS, we'll work with the systems you already have.
So kind of to build on what he was saying on other avenues of getting data out, the USB token, things like that, I think desktop control is really going to be the key, because you can block your choke points around your outbound perimeter, but if you're not controlling it,
Who's stopping my laptop? Exactly right.
if you look back at a lot of the compromises, it's happened because people downloaded shit to their laptops, were doing analysis on their laptops, and their laptop got stolen out of their car.
Sure.
Smash and grab out of their office, whatever.
Absolutely. Or they install a piece of software that they don't know is malicious, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, and desktop control, I didn't mean to brush over it. It is going to include USB devices. It is going to include screen cap control. So you can't just be looking at a query result, say, in a database, and capture that screen and make it into a JPEG. It's going to be clipboard control. It will be agent-based. It's not that we're moving, we're adding an agent-based architecture. We still will have a distributed with the central management and everything else.
Proprietary messaging formats and their
Such as?
associated message stores.
Such as?
Like Exchange.
We are working to do an Exchange connector and a Lotus Notes connector. That's not on our short term, it's on our mid-year roadmap. I know our other vendors have some. One of our largest competitors is actually doing one where they block and quarantine the messages. How many emails do you send a day through your organization? Define a shitload. 9 million a year? 9 million a month. So if you, say, block 1% of those for bad content, you want to look at that queue? What we're designing for our email control is actually being able to bounce it back to the user that sent it and say, you've just sent something that's against our policy XYZ. It needs to go out through the encrypted channel. Please, do so accordingly. Or bounce back to the user that you just sent an email that needed to be encrypted. We encrypted it for you. It sent it to the encrypting engine you may already have, like a Tumbleweed or a PGP Enterprise or whatever mail system, and sent it out for you. But in the future, please remember to put secret in a tag or some of those things. So we're actually helping by giving you the capability to push that right back down to the end user.
The thing, though, is that the user with somewhat intelligence, I can get my own private PGP key. I can send anything I want to anyone I want, as long as they have my public key. They can decrypt it, and none of these tools that exist today is going to see that.
Not true. If you send a PGP encrypted email through a system and our email control solution that's in beta testing right now sees it, and your policy is to kick that back because it's not the corporate approved encryption device, it will kick it back to the end user and tell them, you're not allowed to do that.
I have no idea.
If it's coming from the desk and your policy is not, are you using PGP Workstation? So is it integrated with PGP Enterprise? Okay. So once you integrate with PGP Enterprise, are you still going to allow them to use PGP Desktop? And
Yes.
So you should be able to see if the AD can't decrypt it.
Well, the AD, what I'm saying is the tools today, there's no provision to integrate with that so that they can automatically decrypt that email. So a legitimate user could send an email to someone using the corporately provided PGP key, put anything he wanted to in there, and it would go through and would not be detected.
true. I would talk to PGP about that. Or use a different encryption solution.
user, well, will this flag if somebody sets up an SSL-based VPN that's using port 443?
We will identify SSL. We'll identify SSL usage. That's what we'll identify. SSL encrypted tunnels, SSL encrypted traffic on any port we'll identify. We won't decrypt it today, okay? Today, what we'll do is we'll be able to say, there's SSL going on here.
Like HTTPS on port 443 and an SSL VPN on port 443?
No, because there's no difference. Yeah, the setup might be different, but there's really no difference once the TCP handshake is completed and the SSL handshake is completed. They really pretty much look the same. That SSL handshake is going to look the same at layer 3.
There's the possibility for traffic analysis, so like looking at some of the handshakes, looking at the certificates that we're asking people to, and either allow it this month or just reporting for future use.
Yes, and we do have the capability to write custom categories. So if you know what you're looking for in the payload or setup, you can actually write those and identify that stuff. But that really gets down to the bit head level. So.
Do it as a custom, like you do an HTTPS submit on those web forms and sending them to just that web form.
We don't deal with duration at all, and the reason is because once we reassemble the session, it's reassembled. If it doesn't hit an event, it isn't flagged as an event. What do we do with it? Bit bucket.
A VPN session is a lot more data and over a longer period of time than a single HTTPS form submit with my credit card and shipping address.
Yes, potentially.
But one way to detect a VPN is the VPN is a whole lot more traffic than my credit card system. Now, someone could take.
What if I'm using HTTPS to tunnel my IRC session, which I routinely do?
That might be another thing that I know.
Okay.
Quite a lot of people buy stuff.
We drink our own we drink our own water or eat our own dog food, whatever you want to call it, at the company I work for. And believe me, I've evaded our system using SSL quite a bit.
Obviously, because most times all the company has to prove is that they did have something in place. Best effort to stop the issue.
Perfect point. The companies really only have to have a best effort, due care, due diligence position. And by having a tool like this, and especially as it moves forward to integrate with existing controls, they've done the best that they can do, or you've done the best that you can do. Nobody's going to get fired over it. Well, except the guy who's doing the bad stuff. Okay.
Although I appreciate the idea that we do due diligence. That's a lawyer talking. the lawyer type mentality. Well, we only have to cover up to what we could possibly be sued for, rather than we really want to protect our data or our customers' data and our patients' data.
And ironically enough, the lawyers are the ones that wrote the law.
Credit card itself, it's thrown that on top of that.
You know, yeah. Are you controlling printing? Desktop Control will be able to do that based on the content of what they're trying to print. Based on the content of what they're trying to copy to a USB key, it's going to allow it or not allow it. Based on the content, whether they're allowed to email it, copy it across the clipboard. Not based on the file name, not based on anything, based on the context of the content. So if I'm going to write a racially charged document and I want to go print it out to piss off everybody in the office, and maybe I want to put your name on it, it's not going to let me print it.
They've been doing computer security since the beginning of computers, still haven't figured out all the answers. And they're spending more than most of these companies make in a year, every month on trying to figure this stuff out. So it's.
That's why it's a new. This is a new field in computer security. I mean, it's been identified by the Gartners and the IDCs and the Forresters as something that's important. So that's a valid point, sir.
Just a session, I wanted to ask, does your product handle alternate character sets?
Today, no. Today, no. Future, perhaps.
Based on just a specific type of font? Like, you change fonts and...
No, you cannot change fonts and get through it. Everything gets based out down to the ISO character sets. Yes, it does include Unicode. That's a nice way to encrypt it. And if you double rot 13 it, it's even better. Hey, today, that's a good point.
Right.
Not, you're kind of.
Right. I mean, it's always, come on, security's a cat and mouse game. We all know this. Or it's an arms race. Okay? Build that better mousetrap. We're not trying to build a better mousetrap. We're trying to give you visibility on where your existing mousetraps may or may not be working. Since we baseline data, one of the big side benefits, one of our largest companies, which is a retailer, a real brick and mortar retailer, kind of really big, they said one of their extra benefits was when they deployed this, they had a huge problem with peer-to-peer networking. We don't block peer-to-peer, but we identify it. And when they started sending emails to people saying, shut down those peer-to-peer clients or you're going to get fired, word spread like wildfire through the company. And out at their remote locations in their stores, people stopped using Kazaa and all of the other tools. And what does that mean for a major, Fortune 100 company when their bandwidth utilization that they're paying for goes down by 72% in 3 months? That means the 2 T3s they were just about to buy, they don't have to buy. There's a real return on investment there. And they did it by monitoring and then addressing what they found. And they had no idea why they were using so much bandwidth. I mean, that's just one example. It's a nice side benefit. And when they instituted the new acceptable use policy that says thou shalt not peer-to-peer, they could back it up. People are now following policy. So, one more question. I think I'm running on time here. Anyone? Bueller?
Are there any documented court cases you can find in public records that mention this product? Joey did poo in the Verisat box, found it and his ass got fired or sued or put in jail.
I think we should in touch with our marketing department.
No, I want to know what LexisNexis search I should find. I want to find the keywords in LexisNexis.
I honestly have no idea. I have no idea if our product has found that, if it would have been released.
Right, I know that, yes. Yeah, you have two choices, you can eat a bullet or you get put in jail. I know about that. In those cases, but the problem with that is nobody can document that. Yes, that's the real problem.
Well,
A perfect example of that, Rodney, is I do know that one of our customers caught an employee of theirs chatting on the internet in the state of California with their buddy using IM, I think it was Yahoo, and he was telling his buddy that he took care of the problem that he had and it's no longer a problem, and then during that conversation he released a couple of items of detail that were not a matter of public record and the police did not actually release regarding the murder. And the data that was collected by our device actually was given to the police and the authorities, which gave them enough ammunition to get a search warrant, and they found the actual murder weapon in the suspect's house with blood evidence on it. So he is now serving life in California.
some companies do penetration testing. The companies are actually hiring third-party lawyers, and the lawyers are actually hiring the penetration testing company, so that anything that's found cannot be disclosed to hurt the company's image.
I know that. I want the geeks that those lawyers hire, so I understand how. That wasn't my point. My point is that the slimy suits, the bad versions of Jim standing up in front of the power, who doing death by PowerPoint. They'll say, "Oh, people got arrested for this shit." It's like, that's nice. Give me a court case number. Tell me what's good, but not put something away. And it's nice to make claims like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the problem is that we are on non-disclosure with the company that provided that information. Right. And to answer your question, no, and I understand that. My point is that I don't know where that data is, because that's not really where I focus. But I would love to see it like it's necessary. So if you find it, let me know. All right, well, I'm going to be here all day. well, actually most of the day. If anybody has any other questions, I am going to set up a demo, probably up near the bar lobby area, since there I can still get wireless, and it still seems to be stable. Thank you, Shmoo. And thank you all for coming. I appreciate you. And thanks, Rodney, for putting me on the hot seat there.